What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of Fairy Tail, and if you guys remember from the last review that I did, there were a few things I missed out on, so I went and actually really watched the last few episodes to make sure that I was completely up to speed. Shouldn't miss anything this time, just throwing that out there, so sorry to anybody who thought that I should do more research. I did more research, that's why it's coming out on a Monday instead of a day after the episode came out last week, so should be good now, so let's get started. So, of course, it's not a Fairy Tail episode without some sort of recap at the beginning. That's exactly what we got. If you guys remember from last episode, we have Makarov getting saved from Zeref just before he gets killed, having this realization of oh my gosh, my children are here. And it was a neat moment. Of course, we also get the realization that Zeref is Emperor Spriggan, and that he's pretty much intending to take the Lumen Histoire, or what we now know as Fairy Heart. So, recap over. Through the opening, we get into the episode. And we actually have this really kind of emotional moment with Makarov. He realizes his mistake in disbanding the guild, and he knows what has happened, why he is now in the situation he's in is because Fairy Tail can't just go away like he thought it could. He really realizes that he understands, and he's embarrassed by it. He's distraught, and they console him, and it's really nice that they console him. And if you guys remember the last review, I actually thought that Natsu's hand going down in the preview scene was him, there was going to be some sort of reveal of a awesome power or something, but it was still kind of neat. It was a bit of a letdown by what I thought it was going to be, but he reaches down, and it's just a reveal, or not a reveal. It's a moment of him reaching down to Makarov. So cool, not as cool as I hoped it would be, but it was still cool. Plus, one of the funny things that I love is that Carla is still in her transformed human form. So while she's talking about, we need to get out of here, Makarov has no idea who she is, which I thought was really funny because, yeah, I mean, she learned that ability within the year that she was not in Fairy Tail, so Makarov would have no idea. And one other thing before I get to the next part of the episode was, before they plan to escape, while Makarov is kind of distraught, he kind of realizes, or he understands that he's really gotten nowhere with the negotiations, which is why he had originally disbanded the guild and left for this continent, was because he wanted to negotiate, which Zeref immediately took off the table as soon as Makarov started in with the conversation. So, yeah, I can't super blame him for that, because depending on who he thought the Emperor was, if he had thought that he'd be, reasonable, then yeah, but considering he had to wait so long, and then he, finds out it's Zeref, yeah, I mean, I don't really blame him. I blame him for waiting as long as he did, but then once he realized it, it was kind of like a moot point. Either way, their initial plan for escape was to try to get closer to the shore so that they could do a direct line to how they had gotten there with Angel. But that very quickly got destroyed because Agiel shows up, and apparently, so his ability relies a lot on sand. His magic is sand-based, but what was weird about it was, I'm not sure the extent of his abilities yet, because he said the sand spoke to him, telling him where they were, so there was that. He had sand coming out of his hands, he had a line in the dub that reminded me a lot of it was the opposite of what they had in the Star Wars Episode 2. He's like, I love sand. And it's like, I hate sand. It gets everywhere. I don't know why I was reminded of that, but I thought that was funny. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know the extent of his abilities yet, because he can fuse with the sand from what we've seen. He can create giant sand golems, which are susceptible to ice, which is pretty cool. And he can also create giant pits, along with, of course, creating sand out of his hands and speaking with the sand. So, a little more extensive than what Gaara from Naruto can do, but that was my initial comparison when I saw his abilities. I was like, oh, it's like Gaara from Naruto. But, yeah, a little different. Oh, and it also seems like he is either comprised of sand or can make himself out of sand, because when Urza actually attacks him, the swords are sticking out of him and they just fall out because they're made of sand. Or he's made of sand, rather, not the swords. The swords actually hit their mark. So the group tries to escape, and Natsu and Wendy are completely useless because they try to escape in a magic mobile, which means that moving vehicle can't do much with that because the Dragon Slayers are motion sick. Awesome. Now, of course, Makarov has been completely out of touch with the group for the past year, so he doesn't know how strong they've become. So his initial reaction, or his initial thoughts are, we need to run, these guys are powerful, we need to get them out of here, we need to run, get out of here as quickly as possible. And Gray and Lucy get on the roof because Natsu and Wendy are useless and Urza's driving, and Mess has been pretty beaten up. Lots of people not able to fight in this episode, actually. It was kind of surprising, at least with this initial part of the battle. But anyway, Gray and Lucy get onto the roof. Gray uses his Ice Demon Slayer form, and Lucy takes the Star Dress of Sagittarius, and they actually did a really good job of fending this guy off. I can't talk, I'm so excited. And Makarov is just appalled. He's amazed how powerful they are now. And Gray actually uses his ability, I guess it's called Silver, is what he called it, which I think is kind of cool because it's his dad and all that. But anyway, so Gray uses Silver and completely freezes this sand golem along with Agil. And Agil breaks out of it. Of course, the sand golem at that point is completely useless. They did, or he rather, did make a bunch of other sand things, which Lucy took out using the Sagittarius ability, which was really cool. Now, I know I said this at the beginning of the season, but I do love the fact that Lucy can actually fight. Like, she's actually, not to sound mean, but actually useful now in a fight. She's not just sending her celestial spirits out. She can actually fight herself, which I love the fact that she's able to do that. The whole Star Dress thing just makes it even better. I love the abilities she gains by using Star Dress. But then Agil fuses with the ground and makes this giant sinking sand pit, which I had said was one of his abilities earlier. Makes this giant sinking sand pit and starts swallowing the magic mobile, the magic school bus. And of course, Agil's bragging about how he's killed so many people with this, and he seems like one of the characters that is going to be the bragging type, where he'll brag and brag and brag, and then get proven wrong and get taken out. I think that's probably where he's going as a character, is he's going to get taken out because he is so overconfident. Anyway, so everybody's sinking, and Natsu lights it on fire, and I love that because it's what Natsu does. He lights things on fire, and I was wondering at the beginning of the episode when their guild emblems were going to change. They change over at this point because at this point they're done, I guess, hiding, even though they haven't really been hiding since the island, but they kept the Kate Shelter Guild for a while, so Fairy Tail emblems back on, ready to roll. Let's get into this fight. The fight actually wasn't really comprised of much because this was obviously a very big setup episode and kind of establishing at least Agil's powers and one other character we see in a bit. But the start of the fight was way back, obviously, when they started with the golem, but the actual hand-to-hand part was Natsu punching this dude in the face, actually getting a really good shot in, which he seemed surprised by because he's saying there's not many people, or it's been a long time since somebody's gotten a good shot in like that, which he then proceeds to just wipe the floor with, so Gray also puts up a decent fight, but as soon as Agil starts to really kind of sink the sand in, that's when things start to go south for Fairy Tail. That's also when Makarov uses his magic, which we actually haven't seen his magic for quite a while, but yeah, that's when he uses his magic, gets big, grabs everybody from Fairy Tail and actually clumps them all together and decides to protect them, even though they've been more than capable of protecting themselves without his help from the beginning of this season till now. And of course, with this, Agil takes exception to that and makes a giant wall of sand that will eventually, or not eventually, but it seemed like it would instantaneously kill everyone who's hit by that sand blast. So cool, that was a very quick fight led up to and then let down by the fact that Makarov cut the fight off short and pretty much decided to sacrifice himself from everything I could tell. Again, somebody put a counter in when they were saying, Makarov close to death moment, one of whatever. So I'm taking it that this is probably another one because he just seems to have a death wish. It irritated me. I don't know why it irritated me the way it did, but it did. It irritated me. Like, he is the master of Fairy Tail. He shouldn't be so willing to just kill himself. Like, I get that he wants to protect his children, but if he realizes the situation he's in is not is not something he can win and may actually kill himself with the rest of them, he should probably take into account the fact that they've been able to fight for themselves now. So I feel like he kind of missed the mark and didn't understand the situation he was actually in, but it's whatever. It is what it is, I guess. And of course, with the pinpoint precise timing that only a writer could give, Loxus shows up and strikes the sand away with a very powerful lightning blast, which is cool. Of course, it was kind of this, something would have had to happen to save them because we're not even halfway into the season yet, and there's no way they're going to die. So this, fell into the very weird point from a writer's perspective, from somebody watching it from a writing standpoint. I kind of was thinking, okay, well, they're not going to die here, so what's going to happen? How are they going to, like, it came down to less of how are they going to get out of this situation and more of, okay, who is going to get them out of this situation, because there's no way they're going to die, and you just got to wait for the writer to, show you how they ended up getting saved. It's a lazy writing strategy in a way, but there's only so many things you can do when you want to show off how powerful a character actually is. So Loxus shows up, saves them, but Blue Pegasus is actually what gets them there, because if you guys remember, Loxus is part of, or was part of, Blue Pegasus, and apparently with all of Blue Pegasus, or at least with the Blue Pegasus ship and all of its crew willing to help out Fairy Tail, they make it there just in time. You've got the B team showing up, and apparently the ship that Blue Pegasus uses, Dragon Slayers can be on without them being sick. Again, writing, not exactly something that really needs to be written, but it works. It's just a quickly written, how are we going to get the characters on the ship without them being sick? So just write it in. It doesn't do that now. I'm critiquing the show from a writing standpoint, but clearly it's way more popular than anything I've ever written or anything I've ever done, so who am I to judge? Anyway, so the ship is now close enough that Mess can get them all up onto the ship, no problem, and Loxus basically sets off a electric nuclear bomb on top of Agiel, and August saves Agiel, which it is kind of interesting because it kind of establishes a bit of how August's character is. So he seems, at least from the way that he spoke very briefly with Agiel, it seems like August is kind of an old warrior, or an old soldier kind of mentality, because he says that even somebody of his age finds it, saddening to lose somebody, to lose a friend in a battle. And, of course, Agiel, again, with the overconfidence thing that I brought up last time I was talking about his character, with his overconfidence, he's like, oh, that wouldn't have killed me, but it seems like August is a very, like, he cares about his teammates, he cares about his friends, I guess would be a okay term for that, but his friends, we'll use for the time being, are people he cares about, and he doesn't want to lose them. Agiel, of course, is just overconfident, seems like, young and invincible, and August understands the frailties of life. I don't know. I'm throwing darts at a wall here trying to figure out what these characters are like, but that's what I've kind of gotten from them. So after the little exchange between August and Agiel, that's pretty much it of the Spriggan 12 for the rest of this episode. The Fairy Tail group, they escape, and then a big chunk of the remaining episode was actually just dedicated to the reunion part of it, having everybody back together in the guild hall. A little bit of it was everybody from A and B team reuniting together with the on the ship. So it was a lot of reunion. It was good to see. It was really awesome to see everybody as a part of the guild together again. It was good to see the guild as a guild again. We've had 11 episodes of the guild not technically being, in the guild house, not being a guild yet, like that kind of stuff. And finally seeing it the way it was, that was kind of satisfying from a viewer's perspective. It was neat. Then Makarov steps up and talks about how at this point there will be an invasion. That's it. There was no negotiation. They are going to have to fight a war. They're going to have to keep invaders from taking the Fairy Heart. And that's what it is. That's how it's going to be. And this was probably one of the most epic scenes so far in the season in terms of dialogue and exposition. This was one of the better scenes, one of the best scenes I think out of this season so far, because Natsu, as Natsu does, comes up and rallies the troops, talks about how it doesn't matter what they have to do, doesn't matter how they have to do it, they will win. And oh my gosh, I'm not even going to bother going over the speech. You guys just need to watch it, because it is one of the best speeches Natsu has given, and the music around it, the rallying the troops vibe that you get from it is incredible.
So what? I'm ready! Time and time again, we've put everything on the line for the sake of the guild.
Plus the fact that he puts his hand on the map and lights it on fire was also kind of neat. I really enjoyed that, so that was just a cool visual thing for me. And then to round out the episode, we have a last little tidbit of information, or not information, but leading into what will probably be more information next episode. which is that Makarov is going to talk to the guild about Fairy Heart, but instead of Makarov doing it, we actually get Mavis stepping in to do it. And she definitely looks way more melancholy than she normally does. This is actually really interesting to see because I had really thought, or I had always seen Mavis as like the sad moments she has, you take more seriously with her because she is by nature a very happy, very outgoing character. So when she is like melancholy or restrained, you definitely know that you need to pay attention to what she's going to say. And so she is going to talk about her dark past, which, so if you guys remember from Fairy Tail Zero, Mavis was the great fairy tactician in, I forget what the war was called. It was some war that she was a tactician in. And I'm thinking that part of that is going to be talked about next episode, or more of it, who knows. But we also know that Mavis and the rest of the initial founding members of Fairy Tail learned their magic abilities from Zareth. And so because of that, we're probably going to end up getting quite a bit of exposition on her relationship with Zareth. And I only say that because there's a picture at the end of the episode of her sitting with Zareth. So there may have been more to it than what we initially got from Fairy Tail Zero. That's my guess. Now, I don't know the exact details yet, obviously, because I haven't watched the next episode yet, because for the dub, it's not out yet. But from what I saw from the preview, it looks like Mavis may have actually had the same issues or the same curse that Zareth got, whether it be by proximity to Zareth or because she tried the same practices as Zareth. That may be why she's sealed in the crystal. And only shows herself through projections, is because that's the only way she can talk and interact with people without killing them. That's going to be my guess, because that's all I really got out of the preview, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. Otherwise, this was a very expositional episode towards the end, but during the parts that were action-packed, I did really enjoy it. During the middle, it was okay. I mean, we definitely have some weird stuff that's probably going to be happening with the Spriggan 12, like more interactions. Like, they didn't really establish much with anybody's powers, which I'm thinking they're doing just because they want to build up to the battle that will inevitably come. So I'm okay with the lack of information and the lack of establishment for powers, as long as it's paid off well in some later point in the episode. Or rather, the season, not the episode. Words are failing me at the moment. But overall, I did enjoy this episode. I think you guys will too. If you guys haven't watched the reaction video yet, you can go ahead and watch it right up there. If you have, thank you for watching, and pretty soon I'll be posting the reaction for the next episode. Otherwise, though, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and have a good one.